Welcome to Obstacle Running Adventures,
the podcast that fuels your passion for obstacle course racing,
running, and all things adventurous.
Whether you're a seasoned pro or a weekend warrior,
we've got news updates as well as interviews with athletes
and other key members of our athletic community.
As a weekly show since 2017, we have covered everything from
championship and virtual races
to fundraising events and FKTs. And now, here are your hosts,
Michael Stefano and Caitlin Ritter.
Standing on the corner, lost all my clothes.
Hey guys, it's Michael Stefano.
And Caitlin Ritter. And Mikey, how was your weekend?
Pretty good. I had a bachelor party down in Florida again. Was I in Florida a few weeks ago? Yes, and I'm back again. So that was pretty exhausting. I'm finally getting to feel more like myself today.
Guess who's back?
Yeah.
Back again.
But that was a whole other story. Let's get to the sponsors.
Shout out Mudgear. Use code ADVENTURE for 15% off your next Mudgear purchase. Caterpie. Use code OCRReport20 for 20% off your next Caterpie purchase. And for your next Spartan, Deca, or Tough Mudder, use code OCRReport20 for 20% off.
Perfect. We're going to shout out the $5+ Patreon supporters.
Jason Dupree, Samantha Thompson, Bradley Keel, Charlotte Engelman, Aaron Grindstaff, Laura and Stephen Ritter, Hank and Arlene Stefano, Cheryl Goodwin, Jessica Johnson, Christopher Hoover, Kevin Gregory Jr., Evan Irick, Brent George, Logan Nagel, Asa Coddington, Seth Rinderknecht, Steve Bacon, and Robert Landman.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for the support. And to the OC Report for being our home for us on the internet.
And to Will Hicks,
the Podfather. Check it out over at theocreport.com. I have not checked the group text all month, and I feel really bad about that.
All month?
All month. Yeah, I'm a month behind.
Oh, you should just...
I know, but my OCD is like, you have to catch up. I'm like, I don't know. And to our sponsored athletes.
Javier Escobar, Kelly Sullivan, who is the 2025 Underdog CrossFit Open Women's Champion. Ryan Brizolara, Joshua Reed, who biked the full height of Everest from sea level to the top of what Everest would be at the
Tibetan
Buddhist monastery in Woodstock, New York.
That
and I saw
awesome.
He did it with no headphones, no music, no nothing.
Wow.
He wanted the monk experience.
Straight living, yeah.
Kevin Gregory, who has brought back Bubbles the Clown. He celebrated by making a St. Patrick's Day video.
Yeah. Poll results. Caitlin posted one last night, and it's just about over. Cinnamon rolls are what? 61% of people said breakfast, and 39% of people said dessert, which is wild to me because we were eating cinnamon buns last night. And I'm like,
for dinner?
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, wow, breakfast for dinner. And like as a joke, because it's always been dessert food for me. Like I can't picture that as a breakfast
And
food.
we had 2 people DM us saying that they weren't voting because it's both.
Yes, a lot of people had that feeling, but yeah, 2 people wrote in and said that. We're going to skip meme of the week and head right over to quick news. We are no longer going to the event, but one final plug to the Mud, Sweat, and Tears event, April 19th in Randolph, New Jersey.
Use code ADVENTURE for 15% off any race distance at Obstacle Wonderland for their spicy weekend.
Yeah, maybe we'll be there. We'll see. Some news that I meant to talk about last week but forgot about it and had it annoyingly pulled up on my tab on the computer is that the 2025 Tri-State New York Spartan event weekend in October is in New Hampton, New York.
Oh.
Now, I don't know where that is, but I know that is not Vernon, New Jersey. It has just about always been Mountain Creek, so that is interesting.
I wonder why.
Yeah.
And I wonder what's going to happen to people who booked their hotels already.
That early? Yeah, that's a good point.
I'm sure if you're traveling, you make sure you have everything, right?
Maybe, yeah.
Oh, they're a half hour away from each other.
That's not bad.
No.
And then, Caitlin, you found this next news story about Josh Cox.
Joshua Cox, former co-host of Piss and Cox, got married on March 18th.
Nice. And next news from Rylan Shadegg.
Rylan Shadegg soft launched his truck life. He bought like a box truck and is living out of it.
Very cool.
He posted, I'm unofficially homeless. No running water yet, no fridge installed yet, no lights quite yet, just a bed, a bunch of tools, and some hopes and dreams to make it happen. Then he says, I do have heat, so I don't really view this as hardcore.
Hot Call posted a story that said Irene calls surgery. There's a GoFundMe set up. I'm not too sure as the details of it, but I did find a link. So I'll make sure I'll link that down below as well if you're looking to help out the calls. VJ Shoes posted live on YouTube, World's Toughest Journey, Jenny Stipp's Journey to World's Toughest Mudder 2024. I haven't watched it yet, but that has definitely caught my eye because I love me some World's Toughest Mudder.
Should I do a World's Toughest Mudder Journey video?
I don't know if it'll be as good, but we'll see.
Hey, I'm quite entertaining.
I think she did very well for herself, though. I think she got second.
Okay, well, maybe people just want to see, like, a regular person trying a World's Toughest Mudder.
This was a news story that was sent to me very, very recently. But WarX said, "We are honored and excited to be able to bring back a part of the Indian Mud Run in Hubie Cushman's legacy. The legendary Indian Mud Run obstacles will be live at WarX." So that's pretty exciting. If you're going to WarX, you're going to get a little taste of that as well. Now we're going to get to a whole bunch of podiums, starting with the Spartan Las Vegas sprint podiums.
For the men, in third place, Brandon Jepson. In second place, Andy Burduro, and in first place, Louis Riggle. For the women, in third place, Rachel Munoz. In second place, Savannah Salinas. And in first place, Chloe Malikian.
And now the Spartan Mallorca Super.
In third place, for the women, Siri England. In second place, Clara Lakajokova. And in first place, Sarah Backstrom. Beckstrom. And for the men,
Mallorca Super.
In third place, Andrea Riva. In second place, Martin Backstrom. And in first place, Pa Nacinta Moranas. And, oh gosh.
Oh, the Spartan Kaohsiung Beast.
Where is that?
Clearly that is in New Yanchao campus, which is in Yanchao, Kaohsiung, somewhere in Asia, is my guess.
In third place, Naofumi Yoshida. In second place, Yokoi Komai. And in first place, Raimoa Sugata.
Before I swipe to this one, $30 if you can pronounce the women's winner's name.
In third place, Meng Chung Ho. In second place, Melissa Campos. And in first place...
It's in... I want to say Cantonese.
It's in an Asian lettering.
Yes. And the Etruscan race, they have a whole bunch of distances, so this is the men's short course.
In third place, Francesca Dembrusco. In second place, Flavio Polari. And in first place, Amila Pagonta.
And for the ladies?
In third place, Michelle Monti. In second place, Maria Rosa Vona. And in first place, Beatriz Rubio.
And for the sprint course?
In third place for the men, Samuel Torres. In second place, Emilio Pagnota. And in first place, Dimitri Hollis.
And for the women?
In third place, Michelle Monti. In second place, Maria Rosa Vono. And in first place, Beatrice Rubio.
And for the super sprint?
In third place, Thomas Matu. In second place, Alex Vioio. And in first place, Valentino de Vana. And for the women, in third place, Manuela Malim. In second place, Francesca Ambaroso. And in first place, Malia Stanzari.
And now the super, just kidding. The Spartan Hunter Valley Beast.
In Australia.
Mm-hmm.
In
third place.
Safe for work. In third place, Brody Merchant. In second place, Logan Cook. And in first place, Mitch Green. For the women, in third place, Dasha Mulligan. In second place, Jennifer Hines. And in first place, Calypso Sheridan. Yeah.
And for their super that they had there.
In third place, Dylan Party. In second place, Byron Smith. And in first place, Mitch Green. And for the women, in third place, Dasha Mulligan. In second place, Jennifer Hines. And in first place, Calypso Sheridan.
Perfect. I believe that's all of the quick news. And there's 5 secret links down below, so go and check those out. But let's finally get to what this episode is all about. Well, Caitlin goes to her telehealth appointment.
Because I got poison ivy.
Yes.
Apparently it doesn't die.
It never dies, guys. Never mess with poison ivy. It doesn't die. But what this episode is all about. So many years ago, I remember hearing ads on Obstacle Racing Media's podcast about the Bermuda Triple Challenge. So I assumed, like most small company OCRs, that they had gone under. But in a New England OCR Expo meeting, Mike Kantor said that he would be missing a get-together to take on the events. So I figured that if I thought they weren't around anymore, then many, many others would think the same. So I figured I'd try to be helpful, have them on and talk about the event, an event that personally I wanted to do in the past, and hopefully I'll be able to take on in the future. So let's get to the interview with Mike and Shannon. We'll get started with your name and where you're from.
I'm Mike. I'm from Marlborough, Mass.
And I'm Shannon. I'm from Norwell.
Awesome. So, Mike, you've been on the show quite a few times, but I'd still like to hear both of your backgrounds in OCR.
Yep. So I've been racing OCR since 2017. I think at the completion of these 3 races, this is 162 OCRs under my belt.
Wow.
And it's been a blast so far.
Mike pulled me into OCR last summer. But I think last summer we ended up doing, I think I did 12
at
for
least.
13 races.
Yeah.
So I've got a decent amount under my belt.
Yeah, I know I saw you at Viking too. Like, what are your thoughts on this whole crazy new sport? Like, what were your first reactions to it?
Honestly, I was kind of into it. I was always a kid that was climbing trees and playing in the mud, so it was pretty natural for me. I also really like hiking. I'm not a big runner, so I just call these spicy hikes.
Yeah.
You're hiking, and then you climb a couple walls and go down a couple water slides, and that's a day.
Yeah.
That's pretty much how my wife thinks about it too. She is just starting to get into running. She's doing World's Toughest Mudder, but she just likes a hike, and I think a spicy hike is like a perfect name for that. I remember you saying that at Viking, and that's stuck in my head. That's a good term for it.
Yeah, I mean, I just personally love the obstacles. It's just something to do along the way rather than just either walking or running. It's just like that's the thing I look forward to the most.
Yeah, and that just speaks to the course too. Like, what are both of your thoughts on the community and everything surrounding OCR too?
You want to give your perspective?
Yeah, honestly, the community is so welcoming, especially somebody coming in that's new to the sport who, I can't do monkey bars or any of that upper body stuff. Everybody's always said to me, like, OCR is for everybody. You do what you're capable of, you'll get stronger over time, and we'll celebrate you the whole way through.
Absolutely. Like, I remember when I first got into it, I couldn't do monkey bars either. And I see people and I'm like, if you can't do the monkey bars, make your goal getting to like the 4th rung. And that's a win in your book. And that's like, no one else cares. Like, we're all cheering for you, but if you can't do it, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, and I love OCR just because it's such an inclusive sport. Like, what other sport can you be on the same course as the elites, like the pinnacle of the sport, and they're going to turn around and they'll help you and they'll encourage you? Like, there's no other sport that I can think of that lets that happen. And community is huge. I mean, like, you've run World's Toughest Mudder a few times. Every single time you get there, it's basically a family gathering. It's your little like bunch of crazies that come out to show up to do these things, and you become family. And other people out there, like, you do these races, they're crazy, but they don't get it. When you get there, you show up for the people. And that's why we've probably all endured as long as we have. It's not necessarily for the sport. It's not necessarily for the brands. It's for each other, for all, the person by your side that keeps doing these races.
Yeah. Now, Shannon, being newer to the sport, what are some events that have popped out to you the most?
Oh, like... So I ended up doing a Toughest Mudder, the 12-hour overnight in Chicago last year. That was probably my favorite race by far.
Nice.
For the weather, I don't like the heat very much. It was cool. It was breezy overnight. Lovely.
Beautiful. Yeah.
No sunburn. Amazing. But I think like the Tough Mudder community as well, very team oriented. People are helping you through those obstacles. And then we did Goliathon last year. That was my first race ever. That was awesome. The way that they have that set up with the 3 different tiers of difficulty and the wristbands and the points, they really kind of gamify it, which is a new spin that I haven't seen in any of the others.
Yeah, Goliathon's definitely an event that I feel like doesn't get talked about as much as it should because it is so very unique. And it's the best blend I've seen between Ninja and OCR because those obstacles are very difficult, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I like that Goliathon is charity oriented, which is the same with the Bermuda Triple Challenge.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's a beautiful segue. And something very cool about Goliathon real quick too is like they have like, at least my shirt was like, helped build a wall in like Mozambique or whatever. Like it shows, and so like you feel like you're part of it. And even one of the obstacle of like carrying the 2 like buckets of water, like that's the suffering that people have to do every day. Like, oh, you're having a tough time. Well, if you want drinking water in some countries, it's some of the stuff you have to do. So
yeah, I tried carrying the yoke at Goliathon last year and basically trying to go up and down the hill. Like once it starts sloshing, it gets that like force that like it just perpetuates that basically it knocked me over. I did not realize how difficult it was.
Yeah, it was the only like 3-star or 3-tier thing that I was able to do. Everything else, I'm like, yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good. Actually, before we get to these events too, Popka, being in the sport for so long, what are some events that stand out to you? Because doing this for so long, a lot can start to blend together, right?
Yeah, so I personally love War X. So like I think you've been to Indian Mud Run before, right?
I didn't get the chance to. That was
so it's just
yeah,
a very community-oriented feel. It's not necessarily put on by a big company. It's just a lot of people come together, and it's just kind of like what you would think of like the lifeblood of the sport, kind of like a few years ago when it was bigger. It's just small course, but big on like the heart and the emotion there. And like they had a fireworks display, and you get to shoot guns. It's just
I called it the most yeehaw thing I've ever done.
yes. So we plan on going back this year and doing Goliathon again, and potentially Bermuda the Triple Challenge again next year. So it's all about the community.
Awesome. All right, now we're getting into it. I guess, how did both of you first find out about the series of races? You said it's been on your bucket list for a while.
Yes, I used to go on like Mud Run Guide, and they would like you could look up like by state every upcoming race, and then I used OCR Buddy, and every year I build out a calendar of what are all the potential races I could go to. And it's like I've had Bermuda there forever, but I could never justify going by myself. It made no sense, just like from a financial aspect.
Yeah, and I remember Mike mentioned this race to me. He was like, "Hey, there's this race in Bermuda." And I was like, "Hell yeah, let's go to Bermuda." We were watching for a while because we found the sign-up info from last year, but they hadn't posted the sign-up info for this year, and we weren't sure whether the race was going to be on or off or kind of where it was standing. We couldn't find any info.
Yeah.
So I actually ended up reaching out to the race organizers. They are super communicative, by the way. They will answer all your questions. They are the most lovely, helpful people.
Yes.
Good.
On Facebook Messenger, and they were like, "Hey, like we're just working out some logistics, but we're absolutely having the race this year." So when the sign up dropped in, I think November.
Yeah, somewhere around November. It was kind of like late for a March race, but like we were waiting for it.
Yeah, so that's when we pulled the trigger on that.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Yeah, when I was trying to do trying to get some background information about the race, and I realized like the social media was like pretty dead. So I'm like, oh wow, that was kind of a bit of a surprise. So that being said, like how was the turnout to the event? Like, well, I guess what did you expect, and how was it?
So I'm not.
So it was a few hundred-ish people. I mean, I wasn't expecting to be very high, considering if like a lot of people are coming from like basically the US as the closest locations. Like it's not necessarily the cheapest country to get to. Because of just like the cost of staying there and like airfare.
Yeah, and they said that this year was actually their lowest turnout ever. They're trying to do more social media marketing on their end and get more. I mean, even locals. The island's only 21 miles across. They have about 60,000 people, I believe.
Wow.
A lot of the locals didn't even realize that this race was going on in their backyards.
Yeah, when we were talking about it. And like that's why it's nice that you reached out to like have an episode out so that like we can actually spread the word, because they're an amazing race, they're amazing people, and they definitely deserve a whole lot more turnout from the community to support them.
There was a big spotlight on the elite side of the sport in North America while we still had it thriving. But local or like small scale OCR has always had my heart. So I was very excited to jump on this. Like I said, how was the flight in getting there? Like how was that process?
So, okay, I didn't know anything about Bermuda until this race. I thought it was in the Caribbean. It's not. It's in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, kind of parallel to North Carolina.
Yeah.
So it's not technically tropical, it's subtropical. From Boston area, hour-and-a-half flight.
Yeah, it was super easy.
Yeah,
That's not bad.
And then they had a discounted rate with one of the local resorts. However, even that was probably upwards more than $300 a night. So what we ended up doing was getting a Airbnb, kind of right in the middle of the island. Our Airbnb host was amazing, and there's Airbnbs all over the island. We did that for I think 75 or 80 a night, which made it a lot more affordable.
Yep, and we turned that money back around into like tourism, into like the local economy. We stayed there for like 10 days, 9 nights. So we absolutely like went vacation first because it coincided with Shannon's spring break weekend. So as soon as like it was that first Saturday, we went and we stayed until like basically like the following Monday.
That's crazy. And I'm glad that you pointed out like the geography of it, because I always think of like Bermuda, Bahama, come on, Pretty Mama, like the Beach Boys, like, oh yeah, they're all like together. No. Yeah. I Googled it. I was also surprised. I like to think I'm pretty good with geography. Like I know Europe, I know the United States more than most Americans. I did not know where Bermuda was. So that was a surprise to me as well.
Yeah. Now we know where to put it on the map, at least.
Love it. Love it. So the travel was good. I guess we should probably talk like, what is the Bermuda Triple Challenge?
So Bermuda Triple Challenge, they have 3 races over the course of 3 days, and they're all over the island, which is amazing. So the first race it was actually a night race. It was in the evening.
At 7 p.m.
Yeah.
Sweet.
It was in their old historical town of St. George's, and they turned kind of the urban area into an OCR race. So they had a like one of the local buses that they slung a cargo net over. They turned an alleyway into like a ropes course. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. And we were doing a lot of stuff kind of like along like basically like the little dock they have like right on like the waterfront too.
Yeah. And then the second race is kind of central. So the first race was the east end of the island. The second race was central. That was in the morning, and that's along the South Shore beaches. So it was 3.5 miles. Bouncing beach to beach and kind of the trails in between.
And Bermuda's known for their pink sand beaches, and like they took us all along like a great chunk of it. Like when we went in the ocean for a few of the obstacles, it was incredible. There's like I've done 160 OCRs. There's stuff that I've never done before that I've done at this series that I'd love to come back to. Like we were waiting along the length of like Horseshoe Beach. It's like the most famous beach in Bermuda, waist deep water all the way across it. It's just something like 20-ish minutes.
Yeah, that was probably one of my favorite obstacles.
And then there's also an obstacle where you had to like take like a 5-gallon Home Depot bucket with like holes poked in the bottom, walk into the ocean, carry seawater into a bucket on like the shore, and you have to fill up to a certain line, but your bucket's leaking the whole time. And it was just so different and creative. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
The sand really gets you though.
Yes.
Yeah. And then the third race was in the dockyard. So that's where
Sorry, one thing. That second race, it was at what was the name of the place?
Warwick Camp.
At Warwick Camp. So it's like where they're like military training, like training facility. So we finished on their assault course with a few of the obstacles, which was really cool.
That's awesome.
So that's just a pretty big thing to mention. Like they're out there like on some bleachers watching you.
Yeah, all the guys in their in the military with the fatigues.
Yeah.
They're out watching us.
Yeah, and they had like their own like firing practice somewhere in the meantime as people were going to.
Yeah, that one was really fun. And then the third race was Sunday morning. So the second race was probably the hardest. 3.5 miles, you're in the sand.
And that's one loop. You could choose to do 2 loops of it too.
Yeah, and if you're racing competitively, you can do two.
Oh, cool.
It's required you to do 2.
Yes. And also one thing, there was a pretty cool slip and slide kind of going down a hill there too.
It was really cool.
That's fun.
And the third race is in the dockyard. So that's where, if you go on a cruise and you stop by in Bermuda, that's where your cruise ship docks. That's kind of the more tourist area. So it's just outside the dockyard. That one had one of Mike's favorite obstacles ever. And then it had a little bit of open ocean, like open water swimming as well. Just kind of across a small portion, but you're getting smacked in the face by some waves.
Yeah. So, I mean, it had some really fun obstacles. Kind of, we were swimming together. It's like not many races you get to like do that, especially in the open ocean, in the salt water, which is cool. And then like somewhere halfway through that one, we were jumping off like a flatbed trailer with a shipping container on it. So you had to climb with the cargo net, and you were like 30 feet off the water. And it was like a decent hang time of a jump. And you just kind of swim through, and there's like a cargo net hanging under a bridge. Think kind of like Killington in the Tarzan swing.
Yeah.
You have to pull yourself out. And I liked it so much I ended up doing it twice. It was epic.
Yeah. And I did it 0 times because
So I made up for her. So between the two of us, we had 2 goes.
jumping off a cargo container into the open ocean is a little bit too scary for me.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of heights. It almost sounds like the stacks with the patrol stuff somebody had for a while after the cliff. Heights is not my friend. That sounds very cool. So 3 different events and 3 different like styles I think is very cool. A couple of things come to mind. You talk about the unique bucket carry of like water and having to like fill a thing. My first Boulder Dash race, Boulder Dash on the beach, had obstacles like that. Yeah. And it had like we had to carry like buoys that were like filled with water, and we had to throw it over the wall, go over the wall, and it was like very beach themed. So I'm not a big beach guy, but beach racing was so cool, so unique. Like racing on the sand is very interesting. It's almost like snow races, like slipping and sliding, not getting that traction.
Like Shale Hill, oh my God, in 2019, it hurt to go across that snow.
Yes, like that, but just a different kind of painful.
Yeah.
A little bit warmer.
Yes.
Yeah, and I do have to say, for these races, it's the incredible appeal is you basically get to see like the shoreline every single race, and it's just legitimately beautiful.
It is. The water is like that turquoise teal. It was sunny, sandy. Yeah, it was an amazing setting.
Yeah. It's like the appeal of like the mountain races. You can see the view. Like there's no other race where you can do this. I asked and they said there's nothing else in around like the Caribbean like islands area that has a race like this. It's just really cool to be like in and out of the water. Like you're on the coast, you're like in paradise doing an OCR, and I can't think of anything better.
Yeah, and then another thing is, and I didn't even plan this, but I was wearing this on my flight home. But like I'm wearing the Spartan Cruise from when they went to
Yes.
Bahamas back in 2015. Did they have like volunteers, lifeguards, like people watching, but like on the water obstacles? Because even if
Everywhere.
you're strong, okay, good.
Everywhere.
Yeah, because I'm not a very strong swimmer, and once I got into the open ocean, I was honestly taken back a little bit. Luckily, I had Mike with me, so he just threw me on his
Yeah.
back and carried me across. But there was a guy on a paddleboard that was right there, ready to pick me up out of the water
Yeah, I
if
think
necessary.
on every water like swim, they had people on both sides of it. At one point, there was like a lifeguard on like a paddleboard as well. Like it was very safe. There were people always close by.
Good.
And they had volunteers all along the course, kind of telling you which way to go and cheering you on.
And they were so nice. Like the people of Bermuda are so incredibly nice, and it's just really cool to see that during the race. Like they're really supporting you too.
Yeah, that's great. Because I know that that's always a good thing to have, safety, but especially like how we say, like in a post-COVID world, in a post-CrossFit incident world,
Yes.
all eyes are on those things. Like there's no reason that should have never happened in the first place, but now that that has happened, like even more so. And then another thing I think of, hopefully, like, did they release the dates and registration information for next year yet? Because I'm thinking that would be massive. They have all these people, Islanders, watching what the hell's going on. Yeah, sign up now.
So kind of. They don't have the registration open yet, from what I know, but they said it's always the weekend after daylight savings time. So it's the weekend after the time changes.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I think that's something that, as we talk about in the expo, Mike, a little behind the scenes, like getting that registration page up is huge because it's still hot in your mind. You're like all super excited about it. Not obviously not something you can do, but when they listen, I think something that'd be awesome. But I love hearing how that each event like differed. That was really cool to hear, and that they were in different parts of the island. I didn't realize how small the island was. I didn't know much about it, so.
Yeah, you get to go basically across the whole breadth of the island. And the reason it probably takes so long for them to announce registration is like it's a small island, it's a tourist island. Like shutting down 3 separate locations to do this race, it probably is quite difficult in terms of like government involvement and everything.
That's a good point too. And that's another reason why Lynn kind of had trouble with the beach too, is like,
Yeah.
it's expensive. Like it's got to be tough to like earn your money back to do that. But this is an event that I'm definitely interested in checking out. What were some other obstacles that kind of stood out to you guys that they had there?
So there were plenty of walls. There's some like really cool balance beams on the assault course.
Oh yeah, there was a balance beam that was over kind of a giant pit.
It was kind of like Asgard's Skywalk at Viking. There's like a 5-part balance beam where the logs are stacked on top of each other, but you were perpetually in the air the whole time.
Oh, that's fun.
And then they had, I think probably one of my favorite races was they're all my favorite, but the first one in St. George is they call it the Urban Foot Race. They had obstacles like dragging tires around a little roundabout.
Yeah.
And
you know how Spartan used to have a tire flip?
Yes.
So they basically had that. They had like basically what would equate to that giant Yokohama tire. I forget how heavy they were, like 400 something pounds for the heavy
They were
one.
pretty heavy even for the elites. Yeah.
That's what.
Yeah.
The nice people, volunteers, there made me flip the team one.
Yeah. And then they had like carrying pallets, and you had to crawl under like a utility truck at one point.
Yeah.
Fun.
It was very different from like a lot of the normal obstacles you would just do in terms of just like they were fun. They weren't just like kind of like the Spartans beat you down stuff. Like if there's any weight, it's nothing incredibly heavy or incredibly long. It's just really enjoyable obstacles at the end of the day.
Oh yeah, they had this so they had a sandbag carry, but it was based off of the beach. So they gave you a sack and then you filled your own sandbag from the sand on the beach.
Yeah.
And carried it up, honestly, a relatively small hill, kind of up and over.
Love that. They're very Spartan-esque with like fill your own buckets with your gravel. I love that. That's great.
Yeah. And they had I don't know how they hung it, but they had like a rope climb hung from, I didn't really notice it.
Oh, it was like it was like construction rafters.
Yeah, holding it. But it's just this rope climb with like on the Friday night race. Like I have some really nice rope climb pictures of the sun setting in the background, and it was beautiful.
That was my next question too. Like I can just imagine you like flipping the tire, doing the thing under the like by the water and stuff. Like, did they have a lot of photographers out there too?
Oh, a ton, yeah.
Yeah, we were waiting to see where all those pictures ended up getting posted, but they had a ton. And we ended up bringing our own phone because we just thought it'd be really cool to take them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they released the so everybody's got timing chips, so everything is like timed. They have a really interesting setup too, because they do a point system. This is a charity-based race. They released the numbers. They ended up raising, I think, $25,000 for local Bermudian charities.
That's great.
And so people will fundraise in advance, and every $500 that you fundraise, you get an obstacle bypass wristband if you're running competitively, and you get a certain number of points. And then your time through the course also counts for a certain number of points.
Yeah.
And so they have official winners. I don't know what they get because
Yeah, I know it's an OCRWC qualifying race. I don't think the obstacle skips count for that one because I think it's just like it's truly legitimate for the qualifying. But I think it's more for like the teams for like the team race, like spirit of just people having fun and like for it being a charity-based race. That was the unique element of it. And also like on two of the races, I'm not sure how many other OCRs do this as especially nothing recently, but like they gave us food at the end on both Saturday and Sunday.
Free food. They fed us. They fed us well.
And considering like that food on the island is kind of expensive, it was very welcome.
That's awesome.
I haven't been to other races that have done that before.
I don't think I really have either. What kind of like food do they have? Like fruit and stuff or?
Cheeseburger. It was mostly cheeseburgers, and they had drinks as well. So free drinks and cheeseburgers. And that kind of transitions us into the next point. Like the vibe that they curated, impeccable.
Yes, and considering it's not a giant, like there wasn't a giant turnout, but like people were hanging out after the race, kind of like hang out at like the central like tent area.
Yeah, they had a DJ, people were dancing, and it was like a kind of like a summer cookout vibe. Everybody knew each other, and the race coordinators, they were there. They were there chatting with us all. They were asking us what we thought of the course, what they could do.
Yeah, any insight we had, like, and you don't really see that much anymore.
Yeah, no, that's all. I was actually curious about that too, with it being like a smaller scale event, like Fit Challenge, like everyone knows Rob McCoy. Boulder Dash, everyone knows Lynn Hall. Like that's pretty cool that you got to like meet the owners and stuff. Like how many? Do you know like how big the team is? I'm assuming it's relatively small.
Relatively small.
Relatively small, yeah.
Two people. So
two people that run the race.
Yeah, Jason Carrera, he started this, I think 10 years ago. And then Claire, I don't know her last name. Those two kind of, I think Claire runs more of the social media side of things.
Gotcha. Yeah, and it makes sense that it was a long time ago because I don't think I said it, but I first found out about this event because it was like a sponsor of Obstacle Racing Media podcast long time ago. And it was probably like when I first started listening to that too. So it was a very long time ago, and I just didn't know they were still around too. So that's amazing.
They had like the lowest turnout this year. I feel like just because of like my experience as an experienced racer, like we really need to like bring up the participation there because they absolutely deserve it.
Yeah, that's huge. And I think that like them being a charity race too, hopefully makes it easier. Maybe they get like a discounted rate in terms of like reserving things. If they're doing things like this for the island, hopefully the island's taking care of them back. You know what I mean? In terms of like all the rental shenanigans and everything. I can't imagine how difficult it is to like get all the materials and stuff there. Do you know if like they keep the obstacles there or how that works?
So I know the second day, a lot of those obstacles were part of the assault course at Warwick Camp. So that was relatively straightforward. Everything else,
I think it's kind of hand assembled. I don't know if they just store them somewhere and they reuse them because we weren't there a prior year.
I mean,
but they can't keep them.
Yeah, most of the obstacles were actually fairly simple, though. Like they were unique, but they were fairly simple. There wasn't a lot of big builds.
Yeah, I mean, they were utilizing like the shipping containers because, you know, it's a big like import economy, and like they had ratchet straps to climb to get over it, cargo nets to get over them. It's just really different.
Yeah, it sounds like old OCR, and I mean that in the best way. You know, just like it's just you get the vibe of the place that you're in because like this is the materials that's available to us. Like when I did the Spartan cruise, like it was one of the first times they didn't have hay bales because they couldn't get hay to the island, and they had like the targets that we had for like a little bit that people were mad because they would like bounce out. That's the kind of stuff that makes it interesting and all the more reason to support these events and check it out because like Spartan's great and all, but you do 500 Spartan races and you're like, you know, it's not changing. Well, guess what? There's other races out there. You need to do these other races. If you love the sport, you can't just love one particular aspect of it. You got to support all these other ones too. So,
yeah.
And I think this race in particular was awesome because of the time that we spent in Bermuda.
Yeah.
The island itself, super safe, first of all. One of the safest like destination places that you can go to. super comfortable walking around at night. You don't have those issues like you do, in other countries, in South America or in the Caribbean islands where you're concerned about that. Bermuda's lovely. And the culture on the island is incredibly friendly. Everybody, they have this thing where in the morning, like you pass somebody on the street and they say good morning to you, and you're expected to say good morning back. And same in the afternoon and in the evening. We took the local buses everywhere. You can get a monthly bus pass for $60.
Yeah, 60-ish each.
And it's for all the buses and all the ferries. We were able to get all over the island, everywhere we wanted to. The buses run every half hour. And so we would always get on the bus and, good morning to the bus driver, and they're used to tourists. So if you say, hey, I'm trying to get to this place, they'll drop you off right there.
Yeah.
That's great. That's good to hear too. Because like in New England, or more specific, like Massachusetts, the usual greeting is, go F yourself. So it's a little,
Right.
It's a little very different from back here.
Absolutely. No, that's great to hear. So you said you were there for like 10 days.
Yeah.
Obviously the race took up 3 days. How did it fit into your schedule? Like, did you arrive, I guess, where was the race in the duration of you guys being there? What are the...
It was right at the end.
Oh, cool.
So we kind of did our vacation beforehand and then did the race right at the end, cleaned up, packed up, and flew out the Monday. So the race was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And we went all over the island. There's the entire span of the island has a railway trail that like they were going to turn it into a railroad, but
I think it was a railroad at one point.
Yeah, but they turned it into hiking trails.
Awesome.
So you can hike along the north coast. One day we went probably 5 or 6 miles along the north coast, along the cliffs, like looking up to the ocean. And the nice thing about this race is it's in March, so it's before tourist season. So the island we basically
the beaches were empty. It was incredible. And that's what I prefer, to not be slammed with a bunch of people.
It's great for you guys and the race. Like that's fantastic. Because I specifically, we had our honeymoon in Italy. Like we didn't want to go when all the tourists would be there. We didn't, so that's a huge selling point too. So sorry, back to your week.
So I think it was the first day I was Googling Bermuda, what to do in Bermuda.
Yeah.
We went to, there's this place called the Blue Hole. It's like a grotto right in the middle of the island. So it's tidal, so seawater is in there, but it's like a lake. And there's cliffs that you can jump off of into the Blue Hole. And it's 50 feet deep, but it's so clear that you can see the bottom. So we went cliff jumping there.
Yeah, that was our first day after we came on the plane.
And the locals were looking at us like we were crazy because, we're a couple of New Englanders. The water was 70 degrees. That's the warmest it gets here in the summer.
Yeah, and we were wearing shorts and t-shirt when it was windy, and they all had jackets on. Yeah. And we were like, this is warm for us.
Us and the Canadians were all at the beach.
Yes.
Yep. So, and then we went hiking. There's a nature preserve connected to that kind of Blue Hole Park with... If you do a little rock scramble at the end of one of the trails, there's a lot of caves that you can go in and explore. So bring a flashlight.
Yeah.
And then what else? There's a museum, aquarium, and zoo, and there's a couple museums on the island where you can learn a lot about Bermuda. Bermuda had a hand in like every American war. We just never hear about it.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Yep. And you can learn about the local wildlife, and it's in the Sargasso Sea, which is really important to ocean ecology. So their museums were really wonderful.
Yeah, we have another museum that we still need to hit next time we go. So.
Yeah, we've got a few things for the next time around.
That's all. I mean, the fact that you were there for 10 days and didn't get to do all the things you wanted to do, like that speaks pretty loudly too. Like there's a good amount of things to do there. That's awesome. Whereas there's some places that I've been that it's like, yeah, you can kind of do it in a day. That's awesome. But like you can kind of do it in a day. That's amazing. So like if you guys had more time, like how many days do you think you would want to be there to like do all the things, I guess?
Well, it depends how many, because we took a couple
considering finances or not.
we took a couple of scheduled days for like beach days. Just to hang out and kind of have some downtime, especially being spring break for me. I needed to relax. But I would say if we had 3 more days
or a week,
we would have been able to hit more. We explored a lot of the central part of the island. We didn't even explore all of Hamilton. There's one major city, which is Hamilton, and then there's a couple of like small towns, the dockyards, and then St. George's.
Awesome.
But I think overall, like if you were gonna go just for the race and take a day in either end, so take two extra days, you could probably see the top things that you wanted to see there.
Yeah. So jealous. Hey, Kayla, we're going to Bermuda next year.
It's so worth it, Mike. In terms of just the OCR, it's so different and unique versus like not even think about it being an island.
In March, coming from a New England winter where it gets really long towards the end of February, going to the tropics, subtropics in March was wonderfully refreshing.
It was lovely to be able to wear shorts and t-shirt.
That's pretty great. Now, if you guys had to be super cynical, are there any things that you think that the race could do better? Anything that could have been better? Things that you now know that you didn't know at the time?
The course markings on the second day were not super clear. A lot of people had run that race before and knew where they were supposed to go at a certain turnoff. So we got a little bit turned around.
Yep.
And that was also the longest course too, right?
Yeah. But by the time we kind of made it back to that area, because we missed a loop and then we went back and we completed the first part that we missed.
Yeah, think of it like a figure eight. We just took basically one of loops and then we joined back up and we're like, oh wait, now we see where it is, because they ended up like adding more clarification course marking. So we just kind of ended up doing the first third of the course at the end.
Yeah, so by the time we got back to that area, somebody had already been out and fixed the course. So they've got communication with, I don't know, probably the really fast guys who made it back.
Yeah.
That's good to hear.
What else?
I don't think I have any other things to improve. I loved it.
Very few complaints, and so we had a lot of questions coming up to it. Those two people I mentioned earlier, Jason and Claire. If you message Bermuda Triple Challenge on Facebook Messenger, Claire's the one that answers you. She answered all my questions, and then she took the time to have a conversation with me about the things that we've done on the island. She was like, "Hey, have you gone to see this lighthouse? And how are you liking it so far?" They have like a unofficial bag check where you can...
which is pretty big because they don't actually advertise it, but like if you're going partway across the island and you kind of want to stay for the day, you can kind of like leave your bag somewhere supervised and like there's no risk of anything happening to it, which is really like help for peace of mind.
Yeah, that's pretty great too. And going back to the social media too, like there were a decent amount of posts, but it almost looked like there was more like text posts and like, I want to see the island. I want to see some of the obstacles. I want to I know you have cool stuff here. Show me. I want to see these. And speaking of cool things, did they have medals? What did
they
they're so cool.
Really cool.
I thought so.
I don't know where the shirt is.
There's one, it's on in the bedroom. So they have this medal, which you get the medal after you do all 3 races. So there's not like 3 different medals. You get the one.
Yeah.
And it has magnetic pieces that attach to it. So there's the base medal, and then there's 2 magnetic pieces that go on top of it. And then they have shirts as well, which the shirts were amazingly comfortable. Here we go. The shirts have like venting in the sides.
Yeah, it's basically like a race jersey that you get with these kind of like side mesh pockets, and it has like the island, and it's like a nice gray heathered.
And they've got their like sponsors and the charities on the back.
Like this is a shirt I would wear everywhere.
It's super
really
comfy.
nice.
And this is the medal.
It's a 3-part magnetic thing.
Base.
And it has the date of the race as well.
So there's the base, and then this is the island of Bermuda. That's a magnet that goes on it.
Okay.
And then the Bermuda Triple Challenge.
It's like it's like a triangle of like the locations of the various parts of the island where the races were, which is honestly like one of the coolest medals I've gotten, Mike.
I see that now. Yeah. So just to describe the listeners, like it's coordinates basically, and it shows the triangle. Wow. All 3 places connected by that is such a cool idea.
It's so cool, Mike. It's going to be front and center prominently on my medal rack.
I bet as it should be too. I'm very, very excited for you guys, and I'm glad you had a good time. That is a sweet medal. When I heard like I've had some magnet medals, but like not one that like overlaid. It's like Inception. How's like that medal and then that medal.
It's really cool. And we're like I said, we're already talking about trying to fit it in for next year. So
yeah. So how much? Obviously, there's the cost of travel, the cost to stay there. Like, how much was the event? Like, when you sign up for all 3 races, right? You can't just do one.
You can choose to go for individual races too. It's just kind of like the basic like events page, like we have with the expo too.
Makes sense.
I think I paid $250 for the both of us for all 3 races. It really wasn't all that expensive.
That's not bad at all. Yeah, that's pretty cheap. I expected a little bit more, but I guess maybe because they know too, like people are spending money to get out there too. It's smart to keep that cost low, but that's definitely lowers one barrier to entry.
Yeah, I think it might have been $200 per person for all 3 days.
But it was really, really worth it. Nothing incredibly expensive, not like potentially one Spartan being like $150 to $180.
And knowing that money is, going back to the race and going back to charities on the island.
Yeah.
I'd spend money on that.
Yeah.
Did they go into specifics on like what the charity does for the island too?
They did. So they have different charities every year.
Oh, fun.
I forget what it is this year, but like some charities are for like youth sport clubs on the island, and like it's mostly children focused, or like athletic associations and education.
A lot of things that I feel many people take for granted, right? Like why are we fundraising for this? Like if you're asking that, you haven't had issues getting that. You know, there's people out there that's hard to imagine, don't have access to sports, don't have access to an education that I think hot take people deserve, you know?
Yeah. And while, there's so much tourism that goes to the island and everybody says Bermuda is so expensive, but while that money is going in, Bermuda is also an expensive place to live for the locals. So they don't have, like, they're not necessarily all rich.
You have to think even their groceries really have to be imported, and it's pretty expensive. I can't exactly recall how much more expensive the groceries are there. But like we did it for a few days to try and save a little bit of money and not go out every day. But like it's just nice to be able to give back to that wonderful community.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I just had a friend, Alex, way back on the show, one of the original hosts. He just had his honeymoon out in Hawaii, and same thing. Like, oh, people think it's paradise. It is, but the cost of like, oh, you want bread? Okay, this has to be shipped from the mainland. You want milk? Like basic things that you would eat in a common meal, all has to be brought out there too. So the cost out there is rough too. Like I'm sure there's some very wealthy people out there, but there's a lot of people that aren't doing as well, and so especially for smaller places like this too. I think that's important to touch on as well.
Yeah, because I mean, we have the privilege to be able to go out there, and it's nice to just be able to do something to give back to the people that actually live somewhere else. And it's going to a good cause that will actually make life somewhat easier for them.
Yeah, so go there, do some races, go some exploring through caves. Just to be clear, was the caves like spelunking? Like were you going underwater? Because that scares me, but the caves is kind of cool.
Yeah, some people do. Did we? No. We went and looked at the water and then we left the cave.
Fair. I saw a video of a guy. It was a tour guide, and he had like the whatever lit up like the cave and stuff like that. And he's like, "Let me show you how dark it is." And he put it out, and everyone's like, "Wow!" And then you just hear him go, "Bye-bye." And I'm like, "Oh, I never had that fear, but now I have that fear for the rest of my life." Thank you, video. But yeah, just there's so many ways to have adventures, right? Like you're exploring an island. You can explore cities, that's fun too, but it's something special about exploring an island. And the rail trail that you talked about too, was it like paved? Was it like what was the?
It was a little bit of everything. It was really well maintained, first off.
That's
so the island has put a decent amount of money into maintaining and upgrading that trail. So they've connected pieces of the trail with like footbridges. So some of it was gravel, some of it was grass.
And there's some like bridges over like the water as well. Beautiful. It was really pretty.
Some of it would like go through woods. You've got like all sorts of biomes happening as you're walking along the trail.
That's pretty sweet. What did they have for wildlife on the course?
Chickens.
Yes.
So we have squirrels here. They have endemic chickens. For some reason, they have like a feral chicken population that they're everywhere. Like you'll be eating at a restaurant and there's just chickens. But as far as wildlife, there's not. They have birds. They have a lot of like seabirds, which are quite pretty. But even the bugs weren't bad. Like we didn't get bitten by mosquitoes or anything.
That's nice. Yeah.
Yeah, we even
didn't get poison ivy or anything, which is something I normally get worried about.
Yeah, they have some poison ivy on the island, but it's not like to the extent that we have it here.
That's good.
Being able to go outside without the fear of ticks was absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, they kind of exist there, but again, like not to the extent that we have here.
Yeah.
So most of the wildlife was like birds and fish. Well, we went to this little so if you go along the South Shore beaches, there's this little. It's called Jobson's Cove. It's like this little inlet that's kind of protected by rocks. And we were in the water there. And there was this huge school of thousands of silverfish swimming all around us and like parting around us. And we stood there probably for 20 or 30 minutes just looking at these fish.
Yeah, it was just so surreal.
It was mesmerizing.
And you said like the water's pretty clear there too, right?
Oh, it's crystal clear.
Yeah.
We'll leave this part out for Caitlin because Caitlin's a little freaked out by birds and fish, but everything else sounds really great. So. Do they have so actually something in the Bahamas when I did the Spartan race? That's the only thing I can really compare it to. So I keep going back to that. They had like jellyfish too, so they had like people in the water making sure like, hey, don't jump, and then they're like moving away with the paddle, like, all right, you good? Do they have jelly? It's a weird question.
No, yeah, actually, I'm glad you asked. So they have some.
Hmm.
So they have Portuguese man o' war, but the season that they start coming in is like late April into May.
Okay, that's
We
good to know.
saw a couple washed up on the beach.
And that was after a particularly kind of stormy
Yeah, it
day.
was after a windy day. But when we were in the water, I didn't see any on the water.
Yeah, nothing close to the shore when we were in the water.
And those are really easy to spot too because they float right on the surface.
Oh.
So it's like a plastic bag coming at you. I mean,
Yeah.
they're not hiding in any way.
Gotcha. That's definitely good to know. Was there anything that I didn't touch on about your vacation, the race, that you guys want to talk about? Because I feel like it's tough to squeeze in 10 days of activities and stuff, but
The food was great.
Yeah.
So their staple on the island is this fish sandwich, and it's a fried fish sandwich, but they have a specific type of fish called
a
wahoo.
Yeah.
And it's a denser white fish, so it has the texture of chicken basically. And so that's fried, and the sandwich is on cinnamon raisin bread. Yeah, it's good.
It's really good.
With coleslaw, tartar sauce, and cheese. So we went on a fish sandwich tour of the island, and we asked a bunch of locals. We were like, "Hey, what's the best fish sandwich on the island?" We got a bunch of answers. Then we tried every day. We tried a fish sandwich from a different place.
Yeah, and I think I've been kind of converted to like fish a bit more. I've done seafood before, but after like this experience, like I'm way more open to trying fish anywhere else.
Yeah, and
it was that good.
When you go to local places, the food is a lot more affordable. So if you're going to like the tourist areas and the restaurants, it's a little bit more expensive, but if you're looking for a fish sandwich, the best fish sandwich of your life, and you go to, kind of a little hole in the wall place,
Oceanside.
Seaside Grill.
Seaside Grill, yeah.
Phenomenal.
They give you this massive sandwich too.
It's huge. I mean, I had to take half of it with me. So most of the time we split a sandwich between the two of us.
So something that applies to me may apply to some other people. Deathly allergic to shellfish. Also, I don't eat seafood. I think the last time I had seafood was in Hawaii a very long time ago. I guess I would try it again, and if it's as good as you say, like it's chicken-ish, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Do they have options for people that don't like fish? Obviously, that's the main thing. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a ton. And I didn't see so much. So a lot of places you'll see like shrimp and shellfish. There's less of that. They more do like fried whitefish. So probably less of an issue with cross-contamination there.
That's great to know too. Yeah, that was something that was a big impact when we were in Italy too, especially Venice, where like they're on the water, like everything was seafood. So I had my translated card, like, please don't kill me. But I think that's good. If it applies to me, it probably applies to other people too. Food security is important as well. But yeah, I'm thrilled that it was a success. I 100% have it on my list for next year. Doesn't mean I'm not gonna get to it, but like you guys, I have my list of like potential races, and as I miss them every year, I already move them on to next year. So hopefully I can I have like an approximate date and all that. And this is one that's very high up on the list for me.
Yeah, almost some of the best race experiences I've had has been here. Absolutely.
We ended up meeting a lot of locals. So it was Spartan 4-0.
Yeah, there's some Spartan 4-0 people. There's one person from New England Spartans. It's just like people that like I wasn't really expecting a lot of people from our area to come out here.
Right.
And then we ended up talking to them, and then we realized there were people kind of from our area. There are people from like Illinois. Was it Iowa?
Oh, probably.
Yeah.
But once they found us, like the New England people, they're like, "Hey, come sit with us." Like, it's true OCR, right?
Yeah.
They're like, "Hey, come eat with us." Which I'm still getting used to because it's lovely.
Yeah. It's kind of a bummer. I wish the New England Spartan page was as active as it used to be too, because this would have been talked about, and hopefully this would have gotten more people. Back in the day, for those unfamiliar, the New England Spartans would show up, and there would be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. No exaggeration. And now it's just like the comment section's dead. I know they're still out there because I'll do a run and I see the jersey, and every time I'm like, nice jersey. Like it's good to see people like that out there too. But yeah, I wish social media channels were more active about it too. Yeah. So starting to come to a close with a little bit. What do you guys have planned for the rest of the year for races and everything now?
Goodness gracious, Mike! If you asked me about my list,
I know we've got. I think the next one up. So we're doing the New England OCR Expo.
Yeah.
April 5th.
Yep.
And then we've got, I can't even read that.
It's just a bunch of various races. Fit Challenge, Obstacle Wonderland, kind of Spartan in Mountain Creek, New Jersey.
Which races, which events are you doing in Mountain Creek?
Oh, likely the trifecta.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah.
Is that the Spartan trifecta?
Yeah. I mean, convince her to do it. She was worried that she won't be able to do it, but like if you walk, you can get it all done.
You got it. It's what I have to remind myself too, because I haven't done Jersey in a while. It is on a mountain. That scares me most of all, but it's not just all up and all down like Killington. There's like no opportunities to run in Killington, which is frustrating, but New Jersey is a lot. It has elevation, but it's not nearly as difficult. You could definitely do trifecta.
Just to hear from someone else. And like we have quite a few other races.
And I'm really looking, we're doing Tough Mountain over the summer.
Yeah, Tough Mountain Challenge in Newry.
Yeah. Have you done that one before, Shannon?
I never have, no.
Yeah, I've done it twice. It's another fun local race.
I grew up in the Midwest, so mountains are brand new to me. I don't think I've ever done anything on a mountain, to be honest. They kind of intimidate me a little bit, but the mountains and the ocean, I'm from the land of the corn.
Land of the corn. Yeah, the one at Sunday River, it's great. One thing to note, and I'm sure, Mike, you already know this and you heard us rant about it too, it's tough to find food if you get up there too late. Like things aren't open up in Maine. Like it's just Maine is shut down in the summer. It's open when there's ski season. Other than that, it's closed. We had gas station food for dinner, and that was not the best fuel. But
gotcha.
Yeah, that's
the big one. Is we're gonna go make sure to make it out to Warwick's again this year because it was a great experience.
Yeah, that's another one that's definitely on my list. I heard amazing things about not just like that race, but they had like a military event after too that wasn't as talked about, which is pretty cool. Yeah. But
there was like this drill sergeant. He was
you get to run basically through like a little like war.
Yeah, they had like flares going off and they're firing blanks and stuff. That was so fun.
You get to shoot a rifle multiple times over that weekend, which is really fun.
You get to shoot at Tannerite and blow it up too.
If you can hit it.
Which I did.
Yeah, I miss the theatrics of like old school OCR too. Like we used to have some of those, but Warx definitely has it. I know they have that massive slide where it looks like you're going down the American flag, which is just like I can just hear the bald eagle, cawing as you go down that. But yeah, that's some pretty solid races. So chances are they'll see you at pretty much all the events nearby.
I'll be there.
We'll be around.
Awesome. And where can people follow you guys on social media and all that?
I'm at the OCR Dog on Instagram, but Michael Kantor on Facebook.
Yeah, and I'm just Shannon Woodill on Facebook. I don't have any of that other stuff.
Well, thanks so much for taking the time to come on, and hope maybe Caitlin and I will be joining you next year.
Yeah,
that would be amazing.
Look forward to seeing you guys.
Awesome.
Welcome back.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah. How was your drink care appointment thing?
I'm going to get so many gains. She's putting me on steroids.
Yeah, all right. Working that recovery. But yeah, more importantly, thank you to Mike and Shannon, who you just heard from. Appreciated hearing from you guys, and it'd be very cool to join you guys sometime. 4 related episodes.
Episode 12.
Which was the Shamrock Half Marathon and Shamrock Shuffle and Spartan Cruise Part 1.
Holy smokes.
That's where we talked about, well, it wasn't. It's just when we talked about it.
Oh.
Like the podcast was around in 2015.
Episode 13.
Moving Heels from Meals on Wheels, 5K, and Spartan Cruise Part 2. So that's where we finished talking about that craziness.
Episode 382.
The New England OCR Expo Part 2, Athletes, Speeches, and Staff. That was one of the last times that Mike Kantor came on the show.
Episode 395.
Viking Obstacle Races Final Raid and Night Trail Run with racers and Asa Coddington. And I believe both Mike and Shannon were on that one, I think.
And episode 398.
New England Spartan Super Sprint and Teddy Bear Crawl, which I think also had both of them as well.
Wait, did we not talk to him at that Samurai Sprint?
Samurai Sprint was a very long time ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This is just like the 3 most recent.
Oh, okay.
I also just realized my phone's at 2%.
Subscribe and follow wherever you get your podcasts. We are Obstacle Running Adventures, and if you like what you heard, leave a review.
Yeah, you can like and follow us on the social medias. If you're not using Facebook like I am, that's okay. Instagram is really our main location.
Follow us on... Support us on Patreon for as little as $2 or as many as $10.
Yeah, please join on the... No, don't join on the app because Apple will charge you extra money, and that's not fun, is it?
Nope.
Coming up next? Not sure. But after that is the return of Fit Challenge and the New England OCR Expo, so things are definitely starting to get busy. Looking at my schedule, I have a good portion of the year planned just not next week. So we'll see.
Maybe you can split those into 2 episodes?
Yes, that's the plan. But it's going to be tough because we are going to be one of the vendors at the expo and we have to be there at noon. We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
Always do. Caitlin, do you have a joke or a quote to end this out?
My quote is, perhaps the reason you are drawn to the flowers is not only for their outer beauty, but because they remind you of you. Beautiful things will bloom after the longest seasons of waiting.
Nice.
And then I wanted to tell that joke my dad kept saying. Like, oh, I was out to dinner.
Are you going to do it?
Do you know it?
I do.
Can I try first?
Sure.
Oh, I was out to dinner and I had leftovers, and the waitress said, you want a box for those? And I said, no, but I'd wrestle.
Pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah, nice job.
How would you tell it?
Pretty much like that. Yeah. Like, no, but I'll wrestle you for it.
I already told that joke so many times.
Yes, it was just funny, though. More funny the first time, but that just about wraps it up. My name is Michael Stefano.
And my name's Caitlin Ritter.
And we'll talk to you next weekend.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening.
We hope you're feeling motivated, inspired,
And ready to take on your next race or training run.
If you've enjoyed this week's episode, leave us a review
And share it with your fellow adventurous friends.
Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Obstacle Running Adventures.
Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode.
Join us every week for more news,
Stories and interviews from the community.
Our intro song was Streaker by Straight Up.
And our outro music is Iron Paw by The Best.
Hello.
Hey, can you hear us all right?
Hey, Mike.
Yeah, sound good. How's it going?
Good.
How was your vacation?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
It was sorely needed.
Yeah, awesome. I'm recovering from a bachelor party myself, so
Did you go somewhere warm?
went to Florida, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to Tampa for like spring training. I'm not into baseball at all, so it wasn't very interesting to me, but it was good. I saw some friends from college I haven't seen in like 11 years, so
That's nice.
it's
Yeah, that is nice.
blast from the past.